All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Give me 1 second here. I want to make sure that my screen is still being shared, and it looks like it is. We just want to make sure that we are not having any technical difficulty. Okay, perfect. So hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. And on today's webinar is going to be on creating and managing loyalty programs in Counterpoint. Some of you may already know me, but my name is Archie Palencia, and I am a retail systems consultant here at Rapid, and I'm joined by my colleague, Robert Flores, whom you all might already know, and he is part of our help desk team. We're very excited to be talking to you, and I can see from our attendees that we were seeing some familiar names from clients that are here in California, that are in Florida, Texas. I also see some that are on the East Coast up in the New York area. So hello everyone. If I haven't seen, or said hi to you in ages, hello. And then for those of you that you're meeting me for the first time, welcome to today's webinar. So before we jump in, just a couple of housekeeping items. So number one, everyone will be muted for this presentation, and that way we can kind of go through it as smooth as possible. But you'll notice that we have a Q&A window. So if any questions come up as we're going through this webinar, please enter those questions in the Q&A window, and then if there is room at the end, then we'll certainly try to address as many of those questions as possible. But if not, then we'll take those questions and then we will answer them directly via email. And then the other thing is today's webinar is going to last about an hour, and it will be recorded. So we will archive this as part of our rapid webinar series. Some of you have probably participated in others on physical inventory, promotions, things like that. So all of those, this will be included in that webinar series. And of course, as a Rapid client, those webinars, the recordings will be available to you as well. All right, with that being said, let's move on to the next slide, which is the agenda. So today we're going to be talking all about customer loyalty programs. Really, we're really going to cover the what and the whys of customer loyalty programs. Then after that, we're going to jump right into Counterpoint and show you in Counterpoint how we set up loyalty programs, how to maintain loyalty programs, as well as how you run loyalty programs. Then after that, we'll kind of talk about some strategies for using loyalty programs. And then as I mentioned at the end, if there's enough time, we'll go through some Q&A. And I do realize that some of you have been using Counterpoint for a long time. Some are new users. So, some of you may already even have loyalty programs. So hopefully, we're gonna try to keep it right in the middle there. So, for those that are new, that they'll be able to learn some things. And then even for those that are experienced, you all will be able to learn some things as well. All right, so moving on to my next slide here. What is a customer loyalty program? I know that sounds like a basic question, but that's obviously what we're here to address. But firstly, what is customer loyalty, right? So when we talk about customer loyalty, basically it's when a customer returns to do business with your store over your competitors and is largely influenced by the customer's experience. Now let me repeat that. So customer loyalty is when a customer returns to do business with your store over your competitors, right? They're choosing you instead of your competitors, and it's largely influenced by that customer's experience with your store, right? And so then that leads us over to what is a customer loyalty program. And essentially, in its most basic form, and I know you can Google this and find all types of definitions and information online, but essentially it is a marketing strategy that rewards customers who make purchases and engage with your store or your brand on a continued basis, right? And you're going to hear me throughout this discussion. You're going to hear me use store and brand interchangeably, right? Because you all are retailers, you all have stores, but you also have created a brand, right? That logo that you have, the image that people first see when they walk into your store. That's your brand. So I like to use those both interchangeably. And then we're going to talk about what does a loyalty program do, right? So an effective customer loyalty program is designed to incentivize the customer to return and make future purchases. Right, so that's kind of the what's the purpose. I know some of this may seem basic, but we really just wanted to first lay the ground, the foundation for this whole discussion. Well, then we're going to go into why offer a customer loyalty program, right? I mean, there's, again, lots of reasons to offer a loyalty program, and I'm going to try to distill it into just a few on this slide. And first and foremost, of course, it's designed to help a retailer increase sales, right? So when we look at loyal customers, they are more likely to make purchases and spend more, right? Kind of think about it in terms of, you as a consumer. I know you all have your retailer hat on right now, but kind of put your consumer hat on and think about when you're out shopping, right? You more than likely belong to a few other loyalty programs that are out there, right? And so typically what we find is loyal customers, they walk into your store with a purpose, right? Either it's the favorite item they need to repurchase, or they want to see what other items that you have, and then when they find that item, they're going to obviously buy it. But statistics show that they are also going to look for other items to buy and therefore spend more. The second point with why offer a customer loyalty program is increase customer retention, right? This loyalty programs are designed to help you to retain your customers, as well as also help you to keep them engaged, right? Engaged with your store, engaged with your brand. Because again, loyal customers are repeat customers, and repeat customers equates to more sales and, of course, more revenue. And then maybe some of you haven't thought about it this way, but it also can help you reduce your marketing costs, right? So statistically, it costs more in marketing dollars to bring in new customers, right? Brand new customers. It costs more to get them in than it is to keep existing customers, right? And so if you think about it, with a new customer who is not familiar with your store or your brand, you have to pour a little bit more energy into attracting those customers, right? With advertisements, marketing programs, things like that. But with existing customers, it's a lot easier to and cost effective to retain those because they're already familiar with your brand. And then lastly, word of mouth, right? When you think about word of mouth marketing, it's essentially free. So you're allowing your loyal customers to do the marketing for you, right? They're going out and they're telling, all their friends and family about your brand or your store. Perfect example, I and maybe many of you out there are part of the Starbucks rewards program, right? I'm probably at Starbucks at least, I hate to say it, 3 times a week. But recently, right, it's fall, and what does fall bring? It brings out the pumpkin spice latte. Well, I discovered that Starbucks has a new iced coffee, and it's their pumpkin foam iced coffee, right? And I was like, whoa, that sounds really good. And so I tried it. And after I tried it, I immediately texted a couple of my friends and was like, hey, did you guys try this pumpkin foam iced latte? It's awesome. right? And so again, I just gave Starbucks some free marketing. And of course, you can spend lots of marketing, but word of mouth is obviously free. All right, and then how do you set up customer loyalty programs? Well, for all of you out there using the NCR Counterpoint system, it's all right there in there. And so we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it and show you how we set up loyalty programs and then get into running loyalty programs. So on that note, I am going to minimize this window and then take you right into the NCR Counterpoint software. So of course, this should all look familiar to you. I'm currently at the main menu, but the first place that we want to start when we are creating a loyalty program is we want to go into Setup, right? So the Setup button right here on the left, and then we want to click on Customers. And then we want to click on and then we want to click on loyalty programs. And pro tip, right? So in case you're not familiar, if you are the one that's responsible for loyalty programs or managing it, make sure that you click on the star in the top right corner of the tile so that it's automatically located in your favorite section so that it's then easily accessible to you. You don't have to go through all these extra steps in getting to this area. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the loyalty program window. And I set up a couple different loyalty programs, but for this webinar, I'm gonna start and I talk to my basic program that I set up. And I wanted to start here because I want you all to remember that you can easily get a loyalty program up and running. Right? It doesn't have to be complicated. And then of course, you can put together some complex ones. So I'm gonna kind of address that as well. But the other sort of thing I wanted to address related to that is, and this is kind of pro tip number 2, is you wanna make sure that any loyalty program that you put together, that program is easily understood by your customers and easily maintained by your customers. In other words, you don't want to make it difficult for them to understand when they can redeem points or how many points they have, or when they can use them, right? Because sometimes, that can kind of be too much work for the customer and then easily turn them off of, wanting to use it or even discourage them from using them, therefore not coming into your store. So on that note, so here is my loyalty program that I put together. You'll obviously name your loyalty program. In this case, I called it Basic. And then before I continue, very signature Counterpoint, right? So all the fields that are in blue are all required fields. So there is some guidance there in making sure that you are filling out the appropriate fields. Right, then the next step is you'll describe your loyalty program. And this description is something that only is internal, only that you will see. So that way it'll help you to, obviously know which loyalty program that you put together, which loyalty program that you're updating, et cetera. So put in a description there. And then you want to think about when you put together a loyalty program, there are 3 different areas. Right? And those 3 different areas are earning points, right? How a customer is able to earn points when they are shopping with you. The second area is redeeming points, right? How a customer is able to redeem their points when they're shopping with you. And then lastly, and a little bit more complex, and we're certainly going to dive into this, but earning when redeeming, right? What happens, what type of behavior happens when a customer is at the register, and wanting to use their redeem points, but then also are they also able to earn points on that same transaction? Right, so we're certainly going to address those, but I just want to just kind of have you keep in mind those different areas because I think that helps to kind of keep it organized in your head so that when you put together these rules and things like that, it makes it kind of really easy to do so. So starting at the top here with earning points, Counterpoint allows you to set these parameters, right? Number 1 is you can set the maximum number of points that a customer can earn per ticket, right? So, this is a control. So if you want to only make sure that they earn 1,000 points or 500 points per ticket, you can certainly define that. In this case, for my basic program, I set it to unlimited, so they can earn as many points as they want, right? And then you'll also define an earning increment, right? And this is basically where you can define a multiple, right? So in this case, I defined a multiple of 1. So every time they earn, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Another example is you can do it in an increment in a multiple of 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, or 10, 10, 20, 30, etc. So in this case, again, I'm keeping it basic, 1 point increments of 1. And then you also have a rounding method, right? So this basically determines how the loyalty program rounds the points off. And so I have mine, as you can see, set to round to the nearest increment. So if it's $3.95, it'll round it to 4 points. You can round it up, or you can, by doing the increase to next, or you can round it down. So you can round the point down to decrease to previous. So mine, as you can see, is set to round to the nearest increment. And then to the right here, you also have settings that you can set whether a customer can earn points on sale items, right? So in this case, I said yes. So even items that I put on sale, the customer will earn points off. Of course, if you don't want them to because you feel like that item's on sale, you're already discounting it, you can then, and you don't want them to earn points, then you can just simply uncheck this box. And then you can also determine whether a customer is allowed to earn points on price overrides. So a simple example of this is maybe, you have a customer is buying an item and it's slightly damaged, but you're going to sell that item to the customer for a slight discount. So you're going to price override it. Well, you can say, well, if I'm going to do that, then I do not want them, or I do want them to earn points on that price override. And as you can see from my basic program, I have allowed it. And then the next thing that you'll do after you define these parameters for earning points is you will define your earning rules, right? So when I click on that button, this brings up the earning rule window. And as you can see, I have about 3 rules that I set up as part of my basic loyalty program, right? And so I'm going to start at the bottom with my all merchandise. And this is basically saying, this rule is saying that, this customer can earn points on, all merchandise, right? So you will first put in a description for that rule, and then you can also define whether you grant points based off of dollar amount. So if they bought $35 worth on that ticket, they earn 35 points. And then you can define how many points they earn per dollar. So in this case, I'm saying 1 point for every dollar that they spend. You can do 2 points, 3 points, whatever. So again, this is all up to you. And then the other thing that you can define, the way they earn points, is you can base it off of stocking unit, right? So you can define points based off how many of a stocking unit that they purchase. So as an example, if they purchase 5 bottles of soda, they get 5 points, right? Or if this is a 2 here, they get 2 points per. So that'd be 10 points. So again, lots of ways, but for this one, I just define mine in terms of points per dollar. And then below, you can set filters. So I'm sure many of you or all of you are familiar. This is signature counterpoint functionality is defining filters. So in this case, for my basic loyalty program, I can define whether they earn points on specific items, right? Specific item categories, subcategories, even item types, whether it's an inventory item or a service, maybe from a primary vendor or a price. And for those of you that are a little bit more, technical, again, signature counterpoint behavior, I can even create my own filters by customizing my SQL statements. right? But I'm gonna go ahead and simplify that. And then the other thing that you can do and define for in terms of rules for earning is, you can define, it maybe only qualifies for a specific store. So my clients out there today that have multiple locations, maybe you want it to be only for store 1 versus, store 4. Maybe you only want, those points earned on a specific day of the week or a specific time frame, right? So again, lots of ways to define and set filters, but in this case, I set it for all. So you can see right here that my item filters and sale filters are set to all. But as you can see, I also have a couple of additional rules for my loyalty program basic, right? So I also define double points. So maybe, for my store, maybe I'm a garden center. So I'm using my little garden demo, but maybe Mondays are really slow, right? It's the slowest day of the week in terms of sales, in terms of customer activity in the store, etc. And so I can use my loyalty program as a strategy to help drive business on that slow day, right? So in this case, I'm saying that I'm gonna offer double points to bring in customers in on Mondays, right? And so as you can see, I described it as double points. I said that they get 2 points, right? Instead of that 1, it's now 2, and then it's on everything in the store, right? And then when I go to my sales tab, it is double points only on Monday, right? And so this is where I am strategically using my loyalty program to help drive revenue or, revenue or sales on one of my slower days, right? So, as we're kind of going through this, make some notes in terms of some creative ways that maybe you can have loyalty programs help you to resolve, maybe certain, issues that you're dealing within, the operations. And then lastly, excluding. So because I'm a garden center, I offer services like tree planting or delivery. I want to exclude those from my loyalty program. In other words, I do not want my customers to earn points on those services, right? And so in that case, when I highlight that, you can see I have this little arrow. I define my description as excluding services, and it's earning 0 points, right? And it's set to earn 0 points on category services, right? So I do have a category of items that's called services. Conversely, I can also use item type. So if this item was, all my services were defined as services, then I could use that as well. So now, anytime a customer purchases services along with, items, they're not going to earn points on them. And I'm going to show you this when we get up to the register at the touchscreen. But the other thing, and the last thing on this to point out is you might have rules that need a specific order to execute, right? In order for them to kind of execute correctly, and they don't kind of override each other, right? Well, Counterpoint will automatically know that based off of the order from top to bottom, right? So this is important, kind of keep this in mind. So when you put together your rules, Counterpoint will basically start from the top and then execute it. So when a customer comes up to the register and then they are basically buying certain items and they have a loyalty program, then it will first start with excluding, right? It'll look at, well, do they have any services that are on that ticket? And then after it looks at that, then I was like, well, is it Monday, right? So do we need to give them double points? And then it'll look at my last one here where let's give them 1 point for everything that they purchase, right? And then you can see here on the buttons that we have this move up and down. So this will help you to, create that priority. We call it stacking. So, it'll again, execute from top to bottom. And that is how you would set up your earning rules and define your parameters for how customers are able to earn points. The next area is redeeming points, right? So how can customers redeem points when they are up at the register? So you'll notice that we have this first field called redemption method, and I apologize if it's a little bit difficult to see, and it is grayed out. It's because of how I built this basic program, but you have two choices. And the first one, and this is for my basic program, but I am saying that my customers are allowed to redeem points same as cash, right? Use it as cash. So when they're up there, they're tendering, they want to use their points to pay. That's what use as cash means. The other option for redemption method is none. And with you define a none here, it basically means that your customer can earn points, but they cannot redeem points. And now maybe some of you are thinking, well, why would we ever have our customers not be able to redeem points? Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing, but honestly, there could be some circumstances where you want to use this. Maybe as an example, you want to offer a free gift to your customers when they reach a certain amount of points, right? And that free gift is something that you don't typically sell or stock in your inventory. Maybe you have a deal with, the restaurant next door where, if your customer earns a certain amount of points, that customer can get a $20 gift card, right? And so in that case, it's obviously something that you don't sell, that gift card, or a pair of movie tickets. And I know I'm talking kind of like a pre-COVID environment, but at least it's giving you guys some idea. So when you're able to get to the movies, if you offer movie tickets, that might be an effective way to do that. So again, use as cash or none are both your options for this basic program that I defined. We're going to go ahead and use as cash. And then the next thing that you'll do is you'll define what the value of those points are worth. So every time they earn a point, how much is that point worth? And in this case, I set it to be 3 cents, specifically here, 3 cents per point, right? And so this is where the counterpoint's going to know to calculate how much their points are worth, right? It's just going to do the math automatically. And then you can also set the minimum points per ticket that they have to redeem during that transaction, right? So in this case, I'm saying that anytime they want to redeem points, they have to redeem a minimum of 300. And this is a strategy, of course. Again, this is completely up to you, but if you want to kind of make sure that your customers are using their points, then this is one way to do it. So that way, maybe you don't want your customers to use 1 point here, 3 points there, and then over time, right, they're just never using their points. But obviously a strategy is for them to get them to use their points, deplete the accumulation so that encourages them to spend more and build their points back up, right? Again, some different strategies to consider. So in this case, I said 300. And then you can also define a maximum number of points that they can redeem per ticket, right? So for some reason, you want them to only be able to use 1,000 points, 500 points, then you would just set that here. So in this case, I have an unlimited, so they can redeem as many points as they want. And this last field here, checkbox in this redeeming points area is allow partial payment. So if I have this checked, and basically what I'm saying is that I'm going to allow my customer to use part of their points, right? They have 3,000 points in their bank and they only want to use 300 and then pay the rest in credit card or cash. I'm saying that yes, you are allowed to. If you uncheck this, you're basically saying, nope, when they do redeem points, it's all or nothing, right? So in this case, I want to give my client some flexibility with my basic program. I want to make it easy. And you're going to see this, but I want my cashiers, my team, to have more more engagement with the customer. And so this is part of my grand scheme of my marketing, of my loyalty program that you're going to see because, the cashier will have some information that they'll be able to talk to the customer with. And I always feel that more engagement with your customers basically builds a stronger, relationship with them. And then of course, that in turn improves the experience that the customer has with your store. Okay, sort of went off on a tangent there. So then going back to allow point for redemption. So you also have some options here when redeeming points. So I'm gonna go ahead and allow my customers to redeem points on all merchandise. All right, so I have that checked. But I do not want them to be able to use their points to buy gift cards. Right, so that's unchecked. If you want to, you can set that. I also don't want their points to be able to be applied to tax, right? You're going to see that. So if you want that, just check this tax checkbox. Try saying that 10 times, and that will obviously include tax, but I don't want tax included in redeeming. And then any miscellaneous charges. So again, these are flags that you want to consider for your loyalty program. These are the ones that I set up for my basic. And then just like earning rules, we have rules to set for redemption. And for the sake of time, and also just for the sake of, again, simplicity, I have no restrictions. So essentially what I'm saying here is that they can use their points on everything, right? And also they can, any store, any day of the week, etc. But same rules apply with stacking that I mentioned earlier. If you have some additional rules for redeeming, then set those up and then make sure they're in the proper order so that they are properly executed. Counterpoint is properly executing them so that you're making it do what you want. So that was redemption rules and setting up your redeeming points. And the last area is earning when redeeming. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit more complex, but it makes sense, right? So it's basically how do you want the system to handle loyalty programs when they're up at the register, buying things, redeeming points, etc. And so we have this first flag, and it's called always zero. You can see it's unchecked. But basically what always zero will do is it will reduce the loyalty points a customer earns for a purchase to zero if the customer is redeeming points to pay for part of the transaction or all of the transaction, right? So in other words, when the customer is using points to pay for a transaction, a ticket, the customer will not earn any points for the purchase. Okay, so I want them to earn points as well, so I have this unchecked. And then the second one flag is reduce for redemptions. Now, basically, reduce for redemptions, well, not basic, I'll give you an example because that's, I think, a little bit more better to understand, but it basically what it means is it will reduce the loyalty points a customer earns for each purchase proportionally, right? And it's based on the number of points the customer redeems. Now, I know that sounded a little bit complex, but let me give it to you an example. So let's say a customer wants to redeem, they're up at the register, with their transaction, they want to redeem 100 points, right? Well, Counterpoint will multiply that 100 points. So you have a multiplier, I said by 1. So in this case, it's 100 times 1, so just 100. You can use a multiplier by 2, 3, again, whatever. But Counterpoint will multiply that 100 points, and then it will subtract it from that number from the points that the customer earns on the ticket. So as an example, if they want to redeem that 100 points, but on the ticket they're earning 500 points, Counterpoint will automatically subtract that 100 points so that they're only going to earn 400 points on that ticket. And I'm going to kind of show you an example of this. So if that still isn't clear, trust me, for me, I was like, wait, what does this mean? I had to kind of read it a couple of times. But again, kind of talks about flexibility in the system. And then maybe conversely, to help with this explanation, if they redeemed 300 points, but they only earned 100 points, then of course they wouldn't earn any points at all. You know, so basically it's just subtracting the redeeming points for the earned points on the ticket. And again, I'll show you an example so that will hopefully be a little bit more clear. And then lastly, we have this 0 if fully paid in points. So, you know, if you selected the reduce for redemptions, this flag will reduce the points a customer earns for a purchase to 0 if the customer pays for an entire ticket with points. So in other words, if they use points to pay for the entire ticket, right, the total amount was, you know, $75 and they had enough points, so they said, yep, I want to redeem all of my points to pay for this ticket, then they will not earn any points on that ticket. All right, so again, just lots of options, but sometimes you don't really consider these things, but it's true, right? So, you want to be able to understand, well, what happens in these certain, conditions. If this happens, then that happens. And this is what basically helps you to control that. And that is how you would essentially set up a loyalty program. The next thing that we want to talk about is show you how to assign a loyalty program to a customer. And I'm going to let Robert jump in and talk through that.
Okay, thank you, Archie. Good day, everyone. This is Robert from the Rapid POS Help Desk. I'll be explaining or demoing to you on how to add a customer to a loyalty program. After you define one or more loyalty programs, you can use the customer or go to home and then go to customer and then click on the customer tab or icon. And this customer window will appear. You will choose or look up for the customer that you will be adding to the program. For this demo, we'll be using Greg. Click on OK. And then go to Activity tab. Okay, on the Activity tab, you will see there the loyalty program. As this is a demo, Greg is already a member of the basic program, but in case you needed some modification and to change the loyalty program for Greg, you have to unlock this window and then do a lookup and assign the appropriate loyalty program for him. Okay, so for this demo, we'll choose basic, and then we're going to save the settings or changes and then lock again. Also on the screen, you will see there the loyalty points balance that Greg has for this program under sales activity, loyalty points balance. So this is how you add the customer to the newly created loyalty program. I'm going to give back the floor to Archie for next details.
All right, thanks, Robert. And one other thing just to kind of point out is, of course, we can define security access levels, right? So if you only want management on up to be able to administer, change, update, certainly very signature Counterpoint, right? You can define those. And also when it does come to just the setup of loyalty program and the configuration in Counterpoint, if that's not already done in your system, then certainly, give us a call. We'd be happy to make sure all that is properly set up. But thanks, Robert. That was basically and how easy it was to assign the loyalty program to the customer. And you can see this is how it becomes. Once you set this up, you assign it to a customer, it then let Counterpoint do its job, right? So there's really little administration that you have to do after this, right? The system does it for you, and that's important because, of course, you want to make sure that you're not spending a lot of time or you're not spending a lot of money, labor, trying to keep up with these types of programs. All right, so we'll close out of here and let's jump to the point of sale register and let's go into our touchscreen. All right, so here we're up at the register. Here's our touch screen. As I mentioned earlier, this is, let's pretend I'm a garden store. This is my garden demo. But the first thing that I want to do is run through a transaction where a customer earns points, right? I kind of want to obviously simplify things. I don't want to break it down. So let's just say, that Greg Rapid, by the way, if you all know, that's Greg Stubblefield. He's one of our trainers here. Greg Rapid's up at the register and he's purchasing a couple of items, right? So he has, hydrangea. He's going to buy that, and he's also going to buy a pot for that hydrangea. And then he also, because he doesn't have the appropriate vehicle to put all this in he's also going to ask us to deliver all these items to his house. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this, right? And so I kind of mentioned this earlier, but think about your registers, right? And think about the customer, your cashier's interaction with the customer, right? And so, one of the things that a lot of our clients do, maybe even some of you do it today, is, that engagement. It's like, hey, are you, hey, Greg, are you part, or hey, customer, I should say, are you part of our loyalty program? And so would you like to be, or if so, yes, I am. And then, it's that sort of engagement that you really want to kind of have up there with your cashiers, because again, that's all part of the customer experience. So in this case, Greg could say, oh, yes, I am. And, thank you for reminding me. Then you can pull up, get the appropriate information from Greg and then pull him up onto the ticket. Right, so now we have them onto the ticket. You're probably noticing some other things on notifications, but I'm not going to address those yet. But we're going to go ahead and complete this transaction. So his total comes to 107.89. Greg's going to go ahead and just, pay us. And then what I wanted to show you is the receipt. So when we look at the receipt, now with all those items that were purchased, we can see at the bottom, the messaging of, how many points he's earned, right, during this transaction, as well as now what his current point balance is, right? So it's all there. When Greg gets this, or when it gets emailed to him, he is able to see all of this information. And then the other thing to point out is, remember my basic loyalty program excluded services? So we have here the hydrangea, the pot, and then the services. So if you look at how many points he's earned, you'll see that the hydrangea and the rim pot, so that $39.95 and the $49.95, add up to $89.85, something like that. And so you'll notice that that's all he earned, right? He earned 90 points. And remember, I totaled that to 89.85. It rounded up that increment, round to near that rounding rule that I'd set, it automatically rounded up to 90. And so in this case, you can see that my loyalty program, the parameters that I define and the rules that I define, is basically doing its job. All right, so that was running a transaction for earning points. Now let's go ahead and run a transaction for redeeming points. All right, so let's say that Greg's back into our store and he needs to buy another hydrangea because the other one that he just bought died because he didn't water it. And then he's also going to buy some seeds because he needs to plant more in his garden. And so he has these two items up on the ticket. And then if you probably noticed this during the last transaction, but we also have the ability to configure Counterpoint to display the loyalty notification. This is just a configuration. You just a checkbox under, I think, station settings. And then once you check that, if a customer is part of a loyalty program and they have points, this notification will automatically pop up for the cashier, right? Again, talking about that customer engagement between the cashier and the customer. The cashier can say, hey, Greg, it looks like you have some loyalty points available for redemption. Would you like to use those today? Right? And so that is sort of good upsell. It's good interaction because it reminds the customer. Greg might even say, really, I didn't know I, had any points. Not only he has 80,000 points, but, and he might ask like, well, how many points do I have? Right? And so we can even do things like, on the customer Zoom. So if I go back to the customer record, and I'm sure you all are familiar with the customer Zoom, we can even include the customer Zoom to display the customer's loyalty balance, right? So Greg currently has 85,301 points. So that makes it really easy to have these sort of discussions. And then of course, there are other ways to look up points. So if Greg was ready to, ready to tender this ticket, I click on my pay button right here. Then if Greg wanted to, look at, we want to see some additional information about his loyalty points, I set up this pay code for loyalty points and of course associated the pay code with a button. And so when I click on that, this brings up my loyalty points window, right? This gives me additional information. So what loyalty program is Greg a part of? This is the basic one. On this transaction, I can see what his balance is, right? And how many points equates to dollar amounts, right? This is basically Counterpoint's doing the math and multiplying these points by that 0.0333 number. I can see how many points are eligible for this ticket. Right now it's $13.20 and it's $43.94. And why? Right? Because that's all that he needs to pay for this transaction. The other thing is it's only eligible for the $43.94 because it's also excluding tax, right? Remember that tax flag that I set as part of my redeeming rules? Now it's taking that into consideration. And then remember I set that minimum, so he has to spend a minimum of 300 points per transaction. That is giving me that notification, and then of course the maximum. So if I set that maximum there in that parameter for the loyalty program, if I didn't, remember mine was set to unlimited, then on the back end, then it'll just automatically look at the total, the gross on the ticket, right? And then if he only wanted to use, remember that partial points, and then maybe he wants to kind of conserve, some of his points. He only wants to use 300, then I can override that, enter in the 300 points, and that is equivalent to $9.99. That adds it onto the ticket, and then whether he wants to insert his credit card or a gift card, cash, same, thing applies with standard Counterpoint. I can easily just keep up with that by clicking on these buttons, but I'm going to go ahead and click on this $50 bill button, and then we're going to complete the transaction, and then now let's take a look at the ticket, right? So here's the items that were purchased, and then here's what was tendered. So he paid with his points, he paid with cash, and then this was his change, and then the points redeemed were 300, and then the point balance now is 85,001 point, right? And so that basically provides all that information right there onto the ticket. The other thing to kind of talk to is redeem for redemption. Remember I talked about that earning when redeeming, right? So this is a little bit harder to understand because basically he didn't earn any because of the amount basically that he purchased, right? The points basically didn't equate to it. But let me give you a different example just to kind of drive that message home. So let's just say that Greg's back here, he's on the ticket, and now he's buying Japanese maple trees from us, right? And he's really redoing his backyard. And he's actually buying, let's say, 4 of those, right? So this is actually a pretty big purchase. So now he has that, and his total comes to $1,079.96. And then when he wants to use points, we can then click on the points, and then instead, we're going to go ahead and just put in the minimum, right? The 300 point minimum. Because I want to kind of show you what it does when we say, earning when redeeming. And so we'll do the rest in cash. And then let's take a look at the ticket. Then now you'll see that he earned, right, about $1,000 in points on this ticket. But then he said he wanted to redeem 300, right? So basically, Counterpoint automatically subtracted the 300 he's using from the points that he just earned. So instead of 1,000, it's now 700. Right, and so hopefully that makes it a little bit more clear on how you would use this, why you would use the earning for redeeming. Okay, so that was basically running transactions. We went through earning points, redeeming points, and a little bit more on the earning while redeeming. The next thing that we're going to go through is, of course, you're going to need to maintain your loyalty program. You're going to need to maintain loyalty points. And so Counterpoint has some tools to help you do that. And so with that, I'm going to let Robert jump back in and show you some of those tools within Counterpoint.
Okay, Archie, thank you very much on that one. Counterpoint has a customer loyalty points report, which will show the current point balance, the most recent loyalty point activity for each customer. To navigate this one, you have to go to customers and then reports, and then click on loyalty points. Okay, for this generation of report, let's going to use the previous transaction that Archie had made by choosing. We're going to choose full report type, and under customer, let's choose Greg Rapid.
Greg Rapid's really a VIP customer with us.
Yeah, okay. And then go to preview. Yeah, okay, here. You see, as you can see here, the transaction that Archie had created earlier. Yeah, the ticket that is associated for the transaction of the points that accumulated for Greg, and then also not only the accumulation, but also the information that Greg had used his points as to redeem the purchase that he made. So this is how you set up, or you can view the transactions of a specific customer. Also, if in case there are some adjustment made for the points for Greg, you can also see it on this report. Okay. Next, you can close this one. Next on the report is the point redemption. Okay, this customer loyalty point redemption report will just show us the details are loyalty point redemption by item. Okay, you can specify the date range for the report that you wanted to generate, and then click on preview. Okay, so here are the different transactions for each item that had been used by the points by the customer for the transactions. So this is where you can see what particular item that had been used by the points that was made by the customer during his transaction. Okay. Next, in case you needed some, let's say you have to adjust the points for a customer. For example, you give him a bonus points for some transaction that he made or something like that, or to have a correction on his loyalty points. You can do an adjustment. You can go to this window, customer loyalty program, adjust points, and then click on enter. Okay, look up for the customer that you wanted to adjust the points. Let's say you're going to adjust Greg. Okay, and then click on tab to open the other field. Okay. And then place in the points that you wanted to adjust, positive points to add up and negative points to lessen or subtract the points. You can also put a comment here just to, to associate what transpired for this adjustment. And then once everything's okay, you can save and or you can directly post this transaction. Once it is saved, this will automatically be applied to the customer's loyalty points program. That is all for the maintenance. So we're going to get back to Archie.
All right, thanks, Robert. Yeah, so again, lots of tools, lots of different reports. Certainly, if you need any assistance with some of these tools, again, I know I've been saying this, but you know, our help desk team, our education team, our programmers, obviously, we would all be happy to assist you. All right, with that note, then I want to just start to wrap up. I know that we are coming up on the hour. But I wanted lastly just talk about strategies for using customer loyalty programs, right? I talked about the main thing about driving revenue, increasing sales, you know, doing things like that. But you can also use, and some even heard me give examples of strategies for, you know, that with that basic program for, you know, driving more sales or customers into the store on Mondays, right? My slow days. But you can also use it to help curate your customer email database, right? So, you know, that sort of interaction that the cashier has with the customer, you know, are you part of our loyalty program? You know, no, I'm not. Would you like to be? Yes, I would. Well, you can require that, maybe that you require the customer to give you an email address, right, in order to be part of the loyalty program. So that way, you're building your customer database with valid email addresses that you can then in turn leverage for other marketing programs, right? Not just for loyalty programs, but if you want to do email marketing or if you want to do some sort of new electronic email newsletter, right? You know, things like that. Then you can also use customer loyalty programs as a strategy to move slower turning inventory. So not just slower days of the week, but maybe, you know, you have slower selling brands that you sell and you want to kind of push those slower selling brands out to your customers. And so maybe you can use a loyalty program that they get double points for those things. Or maybe you have seasonal items and it's you know, you're wrapping up that season and you want to move those items, you know, out of your store. So you certainly can, again, use customer loyalty programs for that. And then, you know, I talked a lot about the customer's experience, right, within your store. And, you know, how can, you know, you better always improve and better enhance that experience. And so, you know, as you all probably know that, you know, there are those great email marketing tools like MailChimp and Constant Contact. And if you don't know, we have partnerships with them where we have a direct integration with both MailChimp and Constant Contact, so that if you wanted to, as an example, if you're using MailChimp and you have our integration, you know, you can set up an email that automatically sends, you know, gets sent out to a customer that gives them what their loyalty bank is, right? That, you know, Greg would automatically get an email that says, hey, Greg, you have 85,000 points, you know, why don't you, you know, come on in and use them, right? And you're really encouraging them to, well, first of all, reminding them, encouraging them to, again, come into the store, use their points, spend money. And then I know there's lots, but just want to name a few. But the last thing is get creative, right? You know, make loyalty program, make it fun, make it, you know, kind of interesting for your customers, and that always helps in of course enhancing the customer experience. And of course, getting creative sometimes means a little bit of complexity, and As I mentioned over and over, have any questions, need any help, feel free to call Rapid. We're always eager to kind of help you out. And if there's something unique that you want to do, as you know, that's part of the reason why you have the Counterpoint system and you're with Rapid. We have programmers on staff that we can talk to you about some of the creative things that you want to do, and we can help you to meet those things so that you guys are offering, here's the wrap up, right? A customer loyalty program that, you know, basically drives revenue and enhances your customers and basically you know, strengthens your relationships with your customers. So with that being said, that is a wrap, and I think we're at the hour, and I do see some questions. So Bliss, I'm going to kind of turn that over to you and see if we want
Yes.
to address any, or do we want to go to take these and then email them off?
Yeah, so thank you, Archie, and thank you, Robert, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I know we're right at the hour, so I don't really want to take too much of your time here. We will go ahead and email your responses directly to you. I have your names with your questions, so we'll go ahead and address that. I do want to at least make sure that if you have further questions, please contact us at any time at support@rapidpos.com, or if it's relevant to a loyalty program, setting up your own loyalty programs, rapidcares@rapidpos.com, so we can make sure we're answering those questions and making sure we're, you know, guiding you through setting those up. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. I wish we could cover all our questions right now, but we're at that hour mark, so I want to let you go to your next meetings. But feel you will definitely hear from us shortly with answers to your questions. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care out there.
Bye. Yes, take care.
Thank you. Bye.